And here we are. Nice. Not a single person on the pier either. I know. I'm just excited to get out on the water again. So, you ready? There we go. Alright. Let's set up here. I got a good feeling about this spot. Yeah. So, you ready? Alright. Here are the worms. Go ahead and get one hooked on and go ahead and cast out. Oh, baby. My heart. I know. I dragged you all the way out here, and I know you're just doing this for me. But, so, I appreciate you, is what I'm trying to say here. And I'm just struggling to articulate it, I guess. I'll go ahead and do the bait and everything for you, so don't you worry about that, okay? Do you want to see how it's done? Yeah, it's I mean, it's not as bad as it sounds. I mean, it's a little bad. It's something. You get used to it. See, we are doing just a basic bobber setup. So what this is, you got your bobber on top, and this is just going to float up on the water surface. You've got the red on the top. That way it's easier to see when you're looking down on it, on the water. It's got white on the bottom, because if fish are looking up, and they can see, some fish have really good vision, they'll just see white, which makes sense because they're going to see the sun reflecting on the top of the water. So it makes it harder for them to notice. This is just going to float on the top. You got your hooks right here on the bottom, just a couple feet down. These are just going to dangle and sway in the water. Yeah, there's two of them. And, I mean, depends on the places. Every area, every lake and everything has their own regulations, so you always got to check beforehand. For this one, you're technically allowed 3 hooks, but I just stick with 2. It's easier to deal with that way. Plus, you can have a little bit of a wider margin as to where they end up. Plus, you are less likely to get snagged and tangled and all this, blah, blah, blah. But these 2 hooks are going to sink down, and they're going to just dangle there with the bait. I went ahead and pinched the barbs down, so if you do get a fish on there, you got to make sure that the line is taut. Yeah, I just took the needle nose and just pinched down the barbs. In some places it's not allowed, some places it is. I just prefer to keep the barbs pinched down anyways. I mean, it doesn't make a huge difference. I mean, if you keep the line taut, it's gonna be fine. But mostly because it does a lot less damage to the fish if it ends up getting hooked and it's got a barb on it. Yeah, with barbless hooks, it's easier to just pop the hook out nice and easy without tearing or hurting or anything like that. Plus, some fish get very, very overzealous, and they end up swallowing the hook. It's a lot harder to get it out safely, if it's barbed, that is. So I just prefer to keep it like this. Now, what I personally like to do is for these night crawlers here, you just poke one end, make sure you get one that mostly fits the length of the hook. Poke one end, slide it up the hook, and then pop the side of the hook right out onto its side, like this. Yeah, it's a little gross, but it's effective. See, what happens is when they're dangling in the water, the worm is going to be straight out. That way it's easier for the fish to be like, oh, hey, food, and they try to swallow it whole just like this, and then you can pull up and boom, you got a fish. Yeah, I mean, it's all up to preference. My grandpa used to just fucking wrap the thing around the hook and just hook it as many times, just one side through the body, pull it up the hook, another side through the body, pull it up the hook, and he would just look like a wad of worm, and he was just, I don't know. I've always had better luck with this. Don't you worry, I'm not gonna make you hook your own worms. I'll take care of it for you, babe. Got the second one on here. Alright, so, do you feel confident enough to cast? Yeah, here, let me show you on mine. So, yours is a little bit different. I just gave you the closed bail. That means all you gotta do is press this button and hold down on it. You're gonna whip it kind of back past your shoulder, and you're gonna whip it forward. Keep a good grip on it. You don't want to end up being like those people on those videos where they go to cast and they just fucking throw the whole rod into the water. No. Keep a good grip on it. Keep that button pressed down. And as soon as it gets about 60-ish degrees, I don't know, like 60, 55 kind of degrees, you're going to let go of that button, and you're just going to hold the rod out. It's going to fly out. Once it plops down onto the water, then you're going to reel it in a little. Okay? You're good. We got no one around us, so no worries. Go ahead and give it a shot. And, okay. Yeah, that wasn't bad at all. Nice. Now, go ahead and reel in just a little bit. Yep. So when you cast out, you're going to end up having a lot of slack in the line. And so if you reel in a little bit, just enough where you can see the bobber kind of moving back towards you, that means if something ends up, if a fish ends up biting one of the hooks, then you're going to see the bobber move, and then you can whip the pole back, and you're going to be able to hook the fish. If you got too much slack in the line, you're just going to throw slack line just over the water, and you're going to miss the fish. Yep, just like that. And so just keep an eye on that bobber. It's going to bounce a little bit naturally just with the wind on the water. But if you start to see that thing really start bouncing like fast, and if it goes like underwater completely, that's when you're going to whip it back. And you're going to, don't just like whip it back and then just like let it back forward. You got to keep it up there, and then you can start reeling. Alright. I'm gonna go ahead and get mine all set up. There we go. Well, if you end up getting one on the line and you're able to hook it, you're gonna feel it. I mean, it's gonna be shaking the tip of the pole there, because it's just a single taut string and it's gonna be trying to get away from you. So what you're gonna do is just start reeling. Yeah, I mean, just make sure to keep the pole up. You know, if you let it slack down a little bit too low, then sometimes it can get a good angle and can get off. So just try to keep the pole up, try to keep the line taut, and yeah, just keep reeling. I mean, there's nothing crazy in this lake. I mean, it's probably just going to be some trout, maybe some perch, if we're lucky, maybe like a crappie or something like that. But nothing too crazy. I mean, you could catch the Loch Ness. I mean, who knows? Yeah, beginner's luck and everything like that. There we go. All right. And now, the beautiful and sometimes the boring part. Just waiting around. Oh. No, we can still talk fine. You know, if we were blasting big speakers and subwoofers and everything like that, that might scare them. But no, just casual conversation. It's fine. You know, that's actually a trick that gets passed down from one parent to another when you're on a fishing trip. I mean, my dad did it to me. He said, "Yep, you gotta be real quiet. You gotta be real quiet. Can't talk, or else the fish are gonna hear you, and you're gonna scare them away." Which, I mean, again, if you're blasting music super fucking loud, they might hear it. But casual conversation, no. My dad just wanted me to shut up. Yeah, we used to go fishing all the time. I mean, back where I grew up, there wasn't a whole lot of good fishing. I mean, just a couple lakes here and there. And, I mean, you'd get these tiny little fish, like 3-4 inches maybe, and you get one that was like 5 or 6, and you were like, "Whoa, this is a huge one," but nothing crazy. But eventually we started taking trips further and further out, and catching some new stuff, and yeah. Yeah, it was always something that we had together. It was always something that we could, just have fun, get on the water. I mean, even if it ended up not being a good fishing trip in regards of catching things, it's always nice to be on the water. There's something just peaceful about it. Yeah, just the gentle breeze, the swaying of the water in front of you. Even better if you're on a boat. And just the quiet calm of it all. Especially if you're used to living in a big city or around a bunch of people, it's nice to just get some silence every once in a while. Yeah, I mean, I've been going fishing with my family since I was just a little kid. I mean, got a lot of stories. Anything in particular you feel like hearing? one when I was really young. Well, I mean, there's a couple. I mean, my grandpa used to have one of those small tin boats that you would barely be able to fit 3 people on. And I remember I would go out with my grandma. No, I'm sorry, my grandpa and my dad. And we would go out and we would, do our thing, just mostly bobber fishing, just like this. And I remember that cheap bastard would never invest in an anchor. See, like, anchors are designed in a way where they can still be relatively lightweight, but still keep you in place. That's why they kind of fold, because they land on the ground, you drift a little bit, and then they fold out, and they kind of dig themselves into the dirt below, and that's what keeps you in place. And they could be surprisingly light. But my grandpa, he, for whatever reason, did not care to buy just a regular anchor. No, what he had was a really thick rope attached to just this absolute unit of a cinder block. And, maybe it was just because I was really young and I was really small at the time, but I mean, this fucking cinder block was huge, and it was heavy as hell. I mean, I'm not talking just like regular like brick that fits your hand. I'm talking like big as your torso kind of cinder block. And he would, tie it onto the rope, and he would have that tied onto a part of the boat, and he would toss it over. And I remember each time we would move location, he would go, "All right, Ash, go and pull her up." And I'd be like, "Oh, Grandpa." And he would laugh, my dad would laugh, and I would go over to the edge and I would start pulling up this fucking heavy braided rope. And he was fine at the beginning because a lot of the time it was just excess slack. But then it would get to the point where it was taut again. And the thing is, the anchor was never directly below you. It was always, out in front of the boat or out behind the boat or something, because you drifted off a few feet. And so you would start pulling, and you're not pulling the anchor up. You're pulling the entire boat over to the point where it's directly atop the anchor. And so you're, imagine just tiny little 5-year-old Ash pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling, trying his darndest to pull the whole boat with these 2 grown men in it, to the point where he was above the anchor. And that wasn't even the hardest part. The hardest part was when you finally got to that point, you actually got to get the anchor up. Now, I'm guessing the lakes that we were going to had really muddy bottoms, because those things would get stuck. And I mean like stuck. So I would end up at the edge of this boat, trying my hardest, pulling and pulling and pulling and bringing it up just inch by inch, bringing up this heavy fucking cinder block out of the mud on the bottom, which, mind you, I don't know why. I don't know if it's like water resistance or something, but there's something so much harder about it, pulling it up from the bottom of the water rather than it just like free hanging. Man, it was a workout. I remember there would be times where I would pull up and I would wrap it around my arm and just kind of like hold on for a second, and I was just like, squeeze my hands back and forth, try to get some feeling back into them. Because again, this was like a heavy braided rope, so it was like burning my hands as it was going up. Since I was like 5, I didn't have any calluses. And they would just laugh their asses off, and I mean, it was fine. It was a good time. There was there was another time. It was the first time that we did something that wasn't bobber fishing. Because I mean, there's plenty of different ways you could fish. One of them is using lures. You tie a little lure that looks like a smaller minnow or something on the end of your line, and you cast that out. You fucking huck it out, and then you start reeling towards you, and it looks like a little fish. They usually have some kind of lip on the front that makes them kind of bounce around in the water, makes it look like an injured fish. And they got hooks on the bottom so that when a fish swims by, it'll bite and it'll get hooked, and then you bring it in. And so you're constantly casting out and then, bring it back in, casting out, bringing it back in. And I remember the one that I had casted out, it was some kind of like worm looking bait, or some kind of worm looking, decoy thing. And I cast it out, and it was the just first time I was doing it, and I was trying and trying and trying, and they got like next to no weight in them, which is weird to think that something without any weight is a lot harder to cast out than something with weight. So I was struggling. I was, casting, and I didn't have any good coordination. I mean, I was still a little kid. So I would sometimes get like 10 feet, 15 feet out in front of the boat. My dad would sometimes help me with it. But then there was one time I managed to really huck it out there. And I would just, I sent it flying. And they were like, hey, that's a good cast, bud. And it went out, it went flying. Bam. Right into the reeds. Oh my God. It was snagged. The hooks were stuck onto something in there. And it was just, it was stuck. I was yanking on the pole, trying to get it out. Even my dad was like, here, let me see that. And he, picked up the pole. He was, throwing it back and everything, trying to get this thing unstuck, untangled, whatever. And it was just a struggle. And he was like, and he couldn't get it. And so he handed it back to me. He's like, all right, we're just going to call it a loss. We're going to lose the lure. What you got to do is keep your pole straight. If you're holding it up and then you start reeling and reeling and reeling when it's stuck, it's going to bend your pole and you have the risk of snapping it. So if you just hold it straight out, just a straight line, and then you start reeling and reeling and reeling and reeling, and it's going to get tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter, and eventually the braid that's around the lure itself is going to snap, and then you're just going to break off. It sucks. You lose the lure. It's unfortunate. So I straightened it out, and I was reeling and reeling and reeling, and it was getting really hard to reel. I mean, I was pushing it and pushing it, and all of a sudden, whoosh, it suddenly, under all that pressure, the knots held, and it ripped out of whatever it was stuck on. And I shit you not, I thought, I heard this thing whoosh, it whizzed past, and it slammed right into the edge of the boat. And it scared the two of them, because they were like, what the fuck was that? They heard whoosh, and then just thunk on the side of the boat. It had broken loose off of whatever it was snagged on, and it just, from all that force, it was just flying at us, and it slammed into the side of the boat. And mind you, it was a straight worm when I first had it on there, but from the sheer force of it slamming into the side of the boat, it bent and just fucking mangled the shit out of this little worm jig. And I was just like, whoa, what just happened? I reeled in all the excess line, and I finally got to look at it, and it was straight at first, but then it's all now fucking crooked and bent in places. And I ended up naming it Mr. Scoliosis. My dad and my grandpa were just laughing their asses off. In hindsight, I don't know if that's offensive or not, but it is, just little Ash just came up with something. But it was a time. It was something. mm I love you, baby. I appreciate you coming out here with me. I know this isn't really your thing, but it really means a lot to me that you'd come out here and spend time with me like this.